From the top of La Popa, we get a real feel for the magnitude of a city that grew too quickly. The expansion of this fragmented hub of 1 million inhabitants has created a series of rather eclectic neighborhoods.
There is an old saying that if you come to Cartagena and you never come up here, if you have never been, because this is the only place where you can see Cartagena as it is. You have the old city in the very back, and then you have Manga. And Manga is an island inside the city that started to be populated at the beginning of the century. People left, especially the upper classes, they left the old city and they came to live in Manga, where they built some really beautiful mansions, which unfortunately many of them have been destroyed later on to build smaller houses or the high-rises that you see today. But there are still some old mansions there which are now national monuments. And in the very back then, that's Boca Grande, the modern section of Cartagena. Traditionally, that's the area where the upper classes live, but also for a long time, it was the tourist area in Cartagena because that's where the beaches are. But now there has been a shift toward the old city. In the 1920s, there was this oil company from North America, which came here to install the pipelines for the oil refinery. And what they did, they bought the whole peninsula to build some really beautiful Californian-style mansions with some elements of the old city. And then when this company left, they sold the houses to the locals. But in the 80s, they started to destroy all those houses to build high-rises. But the highest ones, the biggest ones, are from the last 10 years.
And there's still some high-rises that are being developed as we speak.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, there are several of them. Most of them, well, there are 3 of them that are big hotels. And I have to say something about that. You will see lots of hotel chains in Cartagena. And one reason is that the government have given some incentives to build hotels in Cartagena. For 30 years, they won't pay any taxes. So all of them are here now.
No kidding. Of course. They want their piece, too.
Absolutely. Everybody does. We see how Cartagena is losing its soul, is losing what it's ours. The price of property is too high. But you know, Cartagena is really a city of contrast because you have houses that can sell for $7 million in the old city, and yet you can get a house for $20,000 in popular neighborhoods. So this is a place where the contrast between certain areas is too big. It's too big. And yeah, investors, lots of investors. You know, Cartagena is a place that is becoming like the place to be, the place to see.
We've noticed.
And so, of course, everybody wants to invest in Cartagena because the price of properties is not going down. On the contrary, it's going up. The bubble has not burst yet in Cartagena.
El Centro was home to most of the local population until recently. But Cartageneans now have a tumultuous relationship with this architectural gem.
This is really the heart of the city. This is where the big business people used to live, the aristocracy, the rich and wealthy. And then you will see one of the beauty of the old city are these little plazas that you see all over the place.
When we think about Cartagena, we think about El Centro. How is it so special?
First of all, is the architecture, which is unique. You won't see any other place in the world like this one, especially with so many wooden balconies and with a well-preserved city. But the other thing is the people. This is a city that is alive with people, and you feel that energy. You have always with people. People are very gregarious here, and they like to be on the street.
How do the people of Cartagena feel about the Centro today?
Well, what has happened in Cartagena is that the city has gone through this process of gentrification, while not too long ago, people were living here. And when Cartagena was declared World Heritage, the whole thing started to change. On the one hand, you have all this tourism, which is good for the city because they bring money to the city. It helps the economy. But on the other hand, we see how the local flavor is disappearing from the old city. And for us, that's hard to accept. Before, this was our city. All the universities, all the schools, all the stores, lots of people living here, the administration, everything was in the World City. But then when it was declared World Heritage in 1984, the whole city started to change. And that's when people realized, maybe this is a good place to buy now that the houses don't cost anything. People could buy houses for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, while today you have to be part of the 1%ers to be able to buy a house here in the old city.
It also has effects on the street vendors.
Oh, absolutely. There is this will to get rid of the street vendors. Now, we have two types of street vendors, and we should make the difference. There are the street vendors who sell souvenirs for the tourists, and in many cases, they have been accused of harassing the tourists, and in some cases it's true, although I have to say that has changed tremendously. But on the other side, there is the street vendors who offers a service to local people as well as tourists. You will see a tourist drinking from a coconut water, or you will see a tourist buying arepas, or you will see a tourist buying juice on the street, or lemonade, or fruits.
Fruits!
And there are fruits that you cannot even get at the supermarket. There are fruits that you can only get it from the street vendors.
What's the name of the ladies with the fruit?
Palenqueras. Oh, that's an
Palenqueras.
interesting group.
Oh, yes.
That's an interesting group. Palenqueras come from a small village that is called Palenque. The Palenqueras now are part of one of the attractions of the city, because before they used to go from neighborhood to sell their products, whole fruits, but now they are in the old city with that colorful dress,
yes,
selling fruits, selling sweets, and posing for tourists. People never thought that Cartagena was going to be as it is today, a very tourist city. And with the displacement of the local population, the city has been taken over by hotels, by restaurants. Every day we see a new hotel, a new restaurant, a new bar, a new store. And in a way, we also see how our heritage is disappearing.
Who does the center belong to now?
To everybody except Cartageneros.